Hey guys, so I had someone who recently found my channel based on a video that I did talking about my seizure disorder and kind of the struggles that I have dealt with as far as that goes. And this person actually had a very good question, and I thought I would address it in a video just because sometimes it's easier for me to get all of the information across in video format as compared to like replying to a question in the comments or sending a message through Instagram, which is actually where this person found me. So their question was, what did I have to do to get diagnosed with a seizure disorder? And kind of like what the process was. So I will tell you, I had my first seizure when I was still in high school. I actually had a seizure in the band room. I don't think I was actually taking band class that year. I think I was doing choir instead, but choir and band were both in the same room. So it was in the band room. I can't remember if it was sophomore or junior year, or maybe it was senior year. It was one of those. Anyway, I had a seizure during that class, and of course the ambulance responded to the school because I had to be taken to the emergency room. Nobody really knew what was going on. Again, it was my very first time ever having a seizure. It was very scary, and I kind of like, I was on the second floor of the high school. The high school that I attended had three floors to it. And at that time, they didn't have an elevator. So they were having to carry me on a stretcher, like down 2 flights of stairs. And so that was very difficult. And I kind of came to as they were bringing me down the stairs, and they almost dropped me. And like my mother said, I grabbed onto the rail of the stretcher because there's like a little rail there to keep you from falling out if anything happens. And so at first, like at the ER, when the EMTs said that I had grabbed onto the railing of the stretcher, they didn't know if it was actual seizure activity or not. I did end up having to go see a neurologist. I had my driver's license taken away for a period of time based on Michigan law. Once you have a seizure, you have to be a certain length of time seizure free in order to be able to drive, which is currently why I am not able to drive currently, because my new neurologist, I was honest with him and told him that I did have a seizure. And so I'm currently in that waiting period to be able to drive again. He has to approve it before I am allowed to drive again. Like I could get my license taken away completely if I don't comply with all of these different regulations and whatnot. So anyway, that's a whole nother story. I can talk about like the rules and laws and things like that regarding that kind of stuff if you guys are interested in a different video. But as far as like getting diagnosed with a seizure disorder, so normally when you get diagnosed with a seizure disorder, this is completely based on what my neurologist said to me. They don't diagnose you with a seizure disorder from only having one seizure. So they do different testing. Like when I got to the emergency room, they did an EEG, which is where they stick all the electrodes on your head, and they do a scan of like your brain waves, and it can show like if you're having a seizure right at that very moment. But if you have a seizure when you are not hooked up to electrodes, it will not show seizure activity unless you actually have a seizure when the electrodes are on your head. So that's something to keep in mind as well. I had a CT scan, I think I had an MRI, an X-ray, and blood work done, just to be sure, like to rule out drug use and things like that, because obviously at the time I was in high school and high schoolers are known to do drugs, I guess. So they wanted to rule everything out. And like I said, I saw the neurologist, and at that time, I didn't have any more seizures at that moment in time until like a couple years after I started having more seizures. Like I had, I think, 2 a couple years later. And that's when I was actually diagnosed with my seizure disorder, because normally, like I said, they do not diagnose you with a seizure disorder based off of only having one seizure. If you continue to have seizures, that's usually when they will diagnose it as a seizure disorder. There are many different types of seizures. There are psychogenic seizures, which are caused more from like stress and things like that. They're not fake, I will say that, because I do know people who have had psychogenic seizures, and they are not fake seizures, but they are not like the types of seizures that I have where you could actually really hurt yourself and you could die. A psychogenic seizure looks the same as, you know, the type of seizures that I have, but they are not like dangerous in that way. As far as like, usually if you're having a psychogenic seizure, you can breathe during it, things like that, if that makes sense. And please, like, if you know somebody who has psychogenic seizures, don't accuse them of faking it, because again, it's out of their control. It's just usually brought on more by stress than something physical, if that makes sense. So yeah, once I started having more seizures, and it was more than just one, they diagnosed me with a seizure disorder. They put me on anti-seizure medicine. The first one was Tegretol, and it worked for a little bit, and then I started having seizures again. And the Tegretol actually like did a lot of damage to different parts of my body that I don't really want to go into in this video, but I have been on four separate medications now for my seizures. I started off with Tegretol. Shortly after that, they tried me on Dilantin for a very short time, and my insurance did not want to cover it. There was some issue with insurance. I don't remember the exact specifics of that, and because of the insurance problems, they switched me to Topamax, which is what I was on up until this past spring or summer. I can't remember when I saw my neurologist last. Whenever I saw my brand new neurologist, I think it was late spring, early summer, he switched me to Keppra. So I am currently on Keppra, and it seems to be working really well. So anyways, that's kind of how I was diagnosed with my seizure disorder. I hope this answered your question to the person who was curious about like the process of being diagnosed with a seizure disorder. Like I said, there are different types of seizures. There are different types of seizure disorders. There's epileptic, non-epileptic, psychogenic, different things. Seizures can also be a symptom of another medical condition as well. So that's why they kind of do other testing to rule out other causes, if that makes sense. So anyways, like I said, if you have any other questions about my seizure disorder or my experience living with seizures, anything, feel free to ask me. I am pretty much an open book when it comes to like my life, my job, school, and my medical conditions. So feel free to ask if you have any topics you'd like me to talk about in a future video. Please be sure to let me know that as well, and I'd be glad to get something filmed for you. And with that being said, I will talk to you guys later.